Welcome back, America. You know, a country can unravel from within while it's unraveling from without. We've talked about what's going on from within, which is a disaster. But now I want to talk a little bit about what's going on from without. We've talked about China a lot, and I'm not done with China. We've talked about Russia a lot. I'm not done with Russia. But I want to talk about Iran. It doesn't get any attention. Iran is on the precipice of becoming a superpower. It has missiles that can reach the United States. It now has nuclear technology, and now it's working on putting them together so they can hit LA and Washington and New York and Chicago or any damn place they want to hit. This is a fundamentalist regime that talks over and over again about destroying America. And what's happened is Obama sold us out with the first Iran deal, basically giving the United States rubber stamp on the fact that Iran has the right to pursue nuclear weapons. It was just not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And my guest tonight is somebody I have enormous respect for, Richard Kemp, retired colonel. He led the British forces in Afghanistan for a period of time. He's got more awards than he could put on his lapels there. And combat veteran, of course, but he's even more than that. He's a scholar. He's a thinker about these matters. I want to thank you, Colonel Kemp. What exactly is going on with Iran, and why should America be concerned about it?
Well, America should be deeply concerned, and the whole world should be just as concerned, because what is about to happen, I believe, and obviously we don't know yet when or precisely if, but what looks very likely is that President Biden is about to go into an even worse nuclear deal with Iran than President Obama struck with Iran. And that deal, as you alluded to, was very, very dangerous, essentially rubber stamping Iran's ability to become a nuclear state. And now Biden is going even further than that. He's making the situation, which was bad, much, much worse. Because under the Obama deal, for example, the Iranians were limited to less than 5% enrichment, significantly less than 5% enrichment of nuclear material. Now, since the Obama days, Iran has now enriched up to 60%. And that 60% is the bottom level that Biden's going to allow. So he's going to allow enrichment to 60%, which is a very short hop, very, very short hop in terms of technical capability and time to get to the extent required for full weaponization. And what happened before, as I'm sure your viewers will recall, is that President Trump recognized that the Obama deal was terrible, was paving the way for Iran's nuclear weapons, and he ended it. And he ended it and imposed maximum pressure sanctions on Iran, which kept them suppressed, and it kept the enrichment levels down at 5% or below. Since President Biden has taken office, he's eased up on that right from the very beginning. He's eased up on sanctions. He's allowed illegal oil exports from Iran, contrary to US law, contrary to international law. He's allowed all that to go ahead, and he's allowed Iran to enrich from the level of 5%, which was a maximum under Trump, to 60% now. And now what he's saying is effectively you can do pretty much whatever you want. You can carry on building weapons, you can carry on with all other aspects of your nuclear program, including ballistic missiles program. You can effectively carry on with your terrorism around the region. You just can't enrich over 60%. And a reward for that, our reward for that, is we're going to unfreeze $20 billion worth of frozen Iranian assets immediately, with more to follow, probably hundreds of billions of dollars more to follow. And that's going to enable Iran to work even harder on their nuclear program. It's going to enable Iran to continue supplying vast stocks of drones and in future ballistic missiles to Russia to attack Ukraine, because Iran not only threatens the Middle East and the world with their nuclear program, they also are part and party to Russia's war on Ukraine, being the main weapons supplier to Russia. And all of these things effectively are going to be facilitated by President Biden's deal, which is it's effectively a capitulation to Iranian blackmail. It's surrendering to Iran. It follows in a series of foreign policy disgraces by the Biden administration, starting with the humiliation of the United States over the withdrawal from Afghanistan, continuing with the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, which I believe happened mainly because of America's weakness over Afghanistan, and even ceding the role of power broker in the Middle East to China. And this is President Biden's foreign policy record. He's now adding to it total capitulation by allowing this deal to go ahead. And the way I read this deal, for sure, is essentially the US administration has given up on trying to contain Iran's nuclear program. They're just accepting Iran will be a nuclear-armed state. And what this is all about is trying to apply pressure to Israel, apply pressure on Israel to prevent Israel from dealing with Iran's nuclear program. And that I think is the real purpose of this deal, to make it much more complicated for Israel to carry out a serious military strike against the Iranian nuclear program. We shouldn't forget that only Israel has taken an active role in interdicting Iran's nuclear program. And over recent years, Prime Minister Netanyahu, with his close advisor and now Minister Ron Dermer, have outmaneuvered US efforts to facilitate the Iranian nuclear deal. And by carrying out covert operations, cyber, sabotage, assassination operations, they've put back the Iranian nuclear program by a number of years. But the hope, I think, by the Biden administration is that those efforts will be curtailed and Israel will be forced to toe the line and allow Iran to become a nuclear-armed state.
When we come back, Commander, I don't think Israel's going to sit for this. It's obviously going to make their situation much more complicated when you have a president who appeases the Iranians and sells out the Israelis. He's on a really two-track kind of diplomatic activity here, which is bending over backwards for the Iranians in trying to prevent the Israelis from defending themselves.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.